Here are some more examples to help you out with solving algebra number 3. So our first problem is 8x minus 2 equals negative 9 plus 7x. We want variables on one side of the equation and numbers on the other. So we'll have variables on my left and numbers on my right. And I chose variables on my left because we have a higher number of variable, 8, than 7. And I chose numbers on my right because 9 is a larger value than 2. So first thing we need to do is, if we want variables on the left, we need to get rid of anything that is not a variable, in this case, minus 2. So we do the inverse operation, which is add 2 to both sides. Once we add 2 to both sides, we have a simplified equation of 8x equals to negative 9 plus 2 is negative 7 plus 7x. Now we only want numbers on the right-hand side, so we need to do the inverse operation of add 7x, which is subtract 7x to both sides. 8x minus 7x is equal to a single x, which equals to negative 7. Now that we have our answer, we want to check to see if our answer is correct. So instead of writing x, we're going to write the number negative 7. So I'll delete the x and plug in negative 7 into the equation. 8 times, let me plug in negative 7 to the other side of the equation as well. So 8 times negative 7 equals negative 56 minus 2. And then we bring down the negative 9. And 7 times negative 7 is equal to negative 49. Negative 56 and negative 2 make a total of negative 58. And negative 9 along with negative 49 make a total of negative 58 as well. Both solutions are matching, therefore we know the answer is x equals to negative 7. On to the next problem. P minus 1 equals 5p minus 17 plus 4p. This problem is a little different because we need to combine like terms first before we can separate the variables and numbers. So 5p plus 4p is going to give us 9p, and we bring down the minus 17 as well as the p minus 1. So our new equation now is p minus 1 equals 9p minus 17. We'll have the variables on the right hand side and numbers on the left. Since 9 is a bigger value than 1, so we will need to remove all the variables on the left hand side. So we have a positive p, so we remove that by subtracting p on both sides. Our simplified equation is now negative 1 equals to 9p minus p is 8p minus 17. Now we need to get numbers on the left hand side, so we need to remove the negative 17. So the negative 17, the inverse would be positive 17. Add 17 to both sides. And when we add 17 to both sides, we have negative 1 and positive 17 makes 16 equals to 8p. Lastly, we need to get p alone, so we will divide both sides by 8 because it's 8 times p and the inverse of multiplying is dividing. So divide by 8 on both sides and we're left with p equals to 2. Now we check our work by plugging in p as 2. So anytime I see a p, I'll erase that and write the number 2. There we go. So 2 minus 1 is equal to 1. Whoops, I forgot to replace another p. 2 minus 1 is equal to 1. 5 times 2 is 10 minus 17. And 4 times 2 is positive 8. 10 minus 17 is going to give us negative 7. Bring down the positive 8 and the 1. And negative 7 and positive 8 make a total of positive 1. So 1 does equal to 1. And we check to see that our answer, p equals 2, is correct. Okay. In our next problem, problem 8, it says 5 over 2 times h minus 2 equals to 10. What makes this problem different is that it involves fractions. So when you have fractions, there are different ways of doing this problem. One way I'll do this one is just distribute the 5/2 to both the h and the -2. So 5/2 times h will be 5/2 h, and 5/2 times -2 is basically doing 5/2 times -2 over 1. And that equals to 10. So we have 5/2h, and 5 times -2 is going to give us -10. So plus -10, and 2 times 1 is 2, equals to 10. So now if we want to simplify the equation, we'll have 5/2h, and -10/2 is -5, so we write -5 equals to 10. Now we need to get variables on one side. We'll have variables on the left and numbers on the right. So we need to get rid of anything that's not a variable. In this case, it's -5. So we add 5 to both sides. And our new equation, I'm going to write it on the right-hand side now, at the top. 5/2h is equal to 10 plus 5, which is 15. Now, since I still have a fraction, I want to get rid of this fraction, 5/2. So I can multiply both sides by 2/5. So we do the inverse operation, times 2/5 times 2/5. So the 2 simplifies to 1, and the 5/5 simplifies to 1 as well. And we're left with h is equal to 15/1 times 2/5. And that is 15 times 2 is 30, and 1 times 5 is 5. And 30/5 is equal to 6, so h equals 6. Now we check our work. So I'm going to replace h with the number 6. So now we write our problem, 5/2, and 6 minus 2 is going to give us 4. And bring down the 10. So 5/2 times 4 is the same thing as 5/2 times 4/1. 5 times 4 is 20, 2 times 1 is 2. 20 divided by 2 is 10, and 10 does equal to 10. So h equals 6 is correct. Number 9, we have another fraction problem, but this time it does not involve the distributive property. 7 minus 3/10v equals 1/5v plus 6. So for this problem, we'll need to have variables on one side and numbers on the other. Let's have our numbers on the left and our variables on the right. So in order to have our numbers on the left, we need to remove the -3/10v. So the inverse operation of negative is positive. So we add 3/10/v to both sides. And our new equation is now 7 equals to 1/5 v plus 3/10 v plus 6. When we have a problem like this, we need to make sure we have a common denominator. So 5 and 10, they share 10 in common. So I'm going to rewrite this fraction 1/5 as 2/10v plus 3/10v and bring everything else down. So 2/10v plus 3/10v, now we can add them because they have like denominators, is equal to 5/10v. And bring down the 7 and the 6. And 5/10 can be simplified as 1/2. So I'm going to rewrite this problem again. This time as, let me write it a little higher. 7 equals to 1/2v plus 6. As we mentioned earlier, we wanted our numbers on the left and variables on the right. So we will need to remove the positive 6 because it is not a variable. So we subtract 6 on both sides. And we have 1 equals 1/2 v. Now to solve for v and get it alone, we need to multiply by the reciprocal. So we have 1/2, the reciprocal of that will be 2/1. And we multiply 2 over 1 on the other side as well. So the 1 simplify and the 2 simplify. And 2 over 1 times 1 is going to give us 2, and that equals to v. Now we check our answer. So instead of writing v, I'm going to write the answer 2 and plug it in to the equation. So if we simplify this problem, when we check our work, we have bring down the 7 minus 3 times 2 will give us 6. Remember, it's a 2 over 1, okay? So 3 times 2 is 6, and then 10 times 1 is 10. And that's equal to 1 times 2 is 2, and 5 times 1 is 5, plus 6. 7 minus 6 tenths. So we need to have common denominators. In this case, it will be 10. So 7 can be written as 70 over 10 minus 6 over 10. And 2/5 and plus 6, we need to have a common denominator. That will be, we'll try to make it 10 also in this case. So another way to write 2/5 is 4 over 10, because you can multiply the numerator and denominator by 2. And then 6 over 6 can be written as 60 over 10, because you can multiply 6 by 10 and the denominator 1 by 10. So now we have like denominators across the board. 70 minus 6 is 64 over 10, and 4 plus 6 is 64 over 10 also. So we have matching solutions again, and our answer is in fact v equals to 2. Last but not least, we have a problem that involves both distributive property and combining like terms. So let's distribute the 2. And we have 2 times 4x is 8x. 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. Bring down the negative 8. 4 plus 2x. Now we need to combine like terms with the negative 6 and the negative 8. So we have 8x minus 14 equals to 4 plus 2x. Now we want variables on one side and numbers on the other. I'll have variables on the left and numbers on the right. So we need to get rid of anything that's not a variable. In this case, minus 14. So we add 14 to both sides. And we're left with 8x equals to 18 plus 2x. On the right side, we only want numbers, so we'll need to remove the positive 2x, and by doing subtract 2x on both sides. And now we have 6x, 8x minus 2x is 6x equals to 18. Now we want to isolate for x, so 6 times x, the inverse of that is divide by 6 on both sides. And we're left with x equals to 3. To check our work, we replace x with the number 3. Every time we see x, we replace it with 3. Whoops, let me go back and write that in. I think it was a 2, yes. X and x was 3 again. 4 times 3 is 12, minus 3. Bring down the parentheses. The 2, the 8, and then 2 times 3 is 6. Bring down the 4. Now we do everything in parentheses. 12 minus 3 is going to give us 9. Bring down the parentheses, the 2, the 8, and then 4 plus 6 is going to give us 10. 2 times 9 is 18, minus 8. Then 18 minus 8 is going to give us 10. So 10 does equal to 10, and our answer is true, x equals to 3.